President Joe Biden addressed the nation last night about the attack in New Orleans. The president called the incident despicable while vowing to keep the American people updated on the investigation.
I know I can speak for all Americans when I say our hearts are with the people of New Orleans after the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours. To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come.
Sam Stein, as so he has had to do so often, President Biden acting there as sort of comforter and chief. But let's talk about the response from President-elect Trump, who trolled in outright misinformation and lies on social media yesterday, seizing upon an erroneous Fox News report that this truck had just come over the border, thinking that it was perhaps some sort of migrant behind the wheel. So talk to us about, just frankly, how irresponsible that is and fear-mongering, but also the idea that this incident, with a new focus on national security, may actually ease the path for some of his cabinet nominations to get through.
Yeah, I mean, the first reaction from President-elect Trump was to blame this on a border crossing that turned out to be based on an erroneous report that had to do with the rental of this truck. Ended up being corrected, but Trump's post did not end up being corrected. And then this morning, or I guess late last night, he continued to hammer away at this idea that things are out of control at the border. Now is the time for tough policies to be implemented and so on and so forth. Look, I don't want to excuse Trump, and I'm not. This is what we now expect from him, right? This is the reaction that we have come to anticipate in these moments, and it is what it is. He's not president yet, but we know that from past, this is how he reacts. In terms of his nominees, I think ultimately for the national security slate, and by that I mean Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel at FBI, you can see the case where senators say he needs his team in quickly. And even though we might have some reservations about their views, their management experience, their past and personal lives, we need to push these nominations through. The one sort of caveat I would add is that when it comes to Kash Patel, it's not, obviously, he's a controversial nominee on his own, but he's likely to not be considered right away. The reason for that is that the Judiciary Committee in the Senate will likely go with the Attorney General nomination first, and they can't do things simultaneously. So what we should expect is that Pam Bondi's consideration will happen before Kash Patel, which means that might get pushed back to a couple weeks, potentially into February. So that's just from a timing perspective. But I would make the case, I would guess that Republicans who may be on the fence about some of these nominees will ultimately be persuaded to be supportive in light of what happened yesterday.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll have to watch that when Congress does return to session. That's tomorrow, and the hearings will be in the coming weeks. So, Frank, let's go back to you with really